Hey everybody, David here, and today I wanted to do a top 10 list. I decided to do a list of my top 10 favorite Jim Carrey movies. Now, everybody's always going to have a different list, and I can't see every movie that Jim Carrey has done. Jim Carrey is one of my favorite actors of all time, and he has a whole range of movies. As a matter of fact, he was probably the actor that started getting me interested in films. I'll admit that. And here's another fun note. If you followed my channel for a long time, you know I am a huge fan of these superhero movies. You know, Marvel, DC, whatever, you name it. I'm a fan of all these superhero movies. And a lot of superhero TV shows as well. You know, I'm a huge fan of the Arrowverse. I love the Marvel Netflix stuff. I can't wait for Disney Plus's Marvel shows to arrive. So there you go. And Jim Carrey was my gateway into Batman. I never appreciated Batman until Batman Forever, which made me start to look at The Dark Knight a little bit. And of course, I that movie maybe isn't as good as some other Batman movies, and I gained a new appreciation for the Tim Burton Batman films, and of course the Dark Knight trilogy is one of my all-time favorite trilogies because I learned about Batman a lot more and I realized the darker aspects were actually the much more interesting aspects. Batman Forever might not be the best movie, but I respect it because it was the Batman movie that made me start to pay attention to Batman a lot more, and all of that was thanks to Jim Carrey being in that movie. So, let us begin, starting with my number 10 film of all time. I got Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events. You know what? When this movie was coming out, I wasn't too sure on it. I thought it looked kind of stupid. And then I watched the movie, and it was a nice little heartwarming film. And of course, yes, I watched the show that they had on Netflix, which was really enjoyable. And I never read the books, but I enjoyed Jim Carrey's performance in this. I thought the three kids were really great. There you go. Jim Carrey. There's your number 10 movie on my list. At number 9, I have The Mask. Now, maybe my feelings for this movie are a little down on it because it's been a long time since I've seen it. I still remember enjoying it. I remember the movie pretty well, but I don't know how it would stack up to some of these other movies that I have on my list. But I feel confident it would be right here. I think The Mask is one of those movies that hasn't aged as well as some of these other ones that I'm going to be mentioning soon. But for the most part, I still think it's a worthy Jim Carrey movie. Definitely one of the ones that got him started. Remember, it was this movie and two others, which I'll get to on this list, that got his career all in one year. So you got to show a little respect to The Mask. Plus, it introduced us to Cameron Diaz, who doesn't do much movies anymore, but this was the movie that got her started. Moving on my list, at number 8, I have Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. This one's a little bit, I prefer the first Ace Ventura a little bit more. And this one I feel was a little more watered down. There are still some great jokes, and it's something that me and my cousins and my brothers we quote a lot. And there's a lot of great moments. The rhino scene is I remember laughing hysterically when I first saw that scene when I was younger. So it has a small place in my heart, despite me knowing that it's not as good as the original film. Number 7 on my list, I have Fun with Dick and Jane. I don't hear people talk about this one enough. I really enjoyed Fun with Dick and Jane. I believe, if I remember correctly, it was about a couple that lost their job and they become criminals. And for the life of me, I laughed hysterically throughout the entire movie. I thought it was really funny. Maybe not the most funniest he's done, but for me, I think it's definitely one that I wish. I don't know why people don't mention this one enough. Maybe I'm a weirdo and I just see something in it that a lot of people don't. I believe Alec Baldwin is in this movie too. It's been a while since I've seen this one. Maybe I need to have a Jim Carrey binge and watch a lot of his movies again. But from what I remember this one being really funny. So Moving on, at number 6, this one I remember a lot more clearly. Yes Man. I love Yes Man. I think this was the last movie I saw in theaters of Jim Carrey until Sonic the Hedgehog. That's how long it's been since I've seen a Jim Carrey movie in the theaters. Yes Man is one that I really loved, and I remember cracking hysterically, specifically at that scene where I think he got drunk and was fighting a guy in an alleyway. That scene had me laughing hysterically, and then it gets a little, into a romantic comedy towards the end of the movie. It turns a little bit more romantic and sobby in some areas, but I think in a good way. I think it was a really nice story there, where, sometimes it's good to say yes, and you shouldn't always say no, which I knew a couple of people that always said no to things. And I point out this movie. See, sometimes it's good to say yes. You'll never know where it will lead you. So, moving on to number 5, I have Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. I kind of mentioned this earlier, that the first one I felt was better than the second movie. It's definitely a lot more adult. I think in this one, it's still a PG-13 movie, but I feel it's one that pushes the envelope a lot more than the second one does. I feel like the second one they decided to take it back a little bit because they realized there was more of a kid audience watching, where the first one I feel doesn't hold back on a lot of the jokes, and even the storyline feels a little bit more adult. I will say, though, watching the first and second Ace Ventura movie, there is one scene specifically where I feel like Jim Carrey comes out of character a little bit, because throughout both movies he's very wacky and crazy. But there's one moment in particular, I don't know if anybody will remember this, where it's after he says he says something to Courtney Cox and it makes her upset. And she goes off, I think, and to answer a call or something. And when he goes to apologize, it was that moment where I felt like, that seems kind of out of character for it. I know they wanted to make it a serious moment, but it seemed like he came out of who that character, how he usually acts like. I don't know. That's just me. Maybe other people want to chime in and see if they agree with me, if they remember that moment. But yeah, there you go. Moving on to number 4, I have Liar Liar. I love this movie. I remember seeing it in the theaters back when I was young, and this was already at the status of me being a huge Jim Carrey fan. I think the story is really nice, about a father and son, about a son who wants his father to stop lying, and he wishes for that to happen, and the trouble it causes, the shit it causes for his life, I thought was hysterical. The bathroom scene where Jim Carrey kicks his own ass, and the guy walks in and says, "What the hell are you doing?" And Jim Carrey goes, "I'm kicking my own ass. Do you mind?" Hysterical. I remember I was dying of laughter in the theaters, and even when it came out on VHS, I would watch that scene over and over again. VHS was a thing, folks. If you people younger don't know what a VHS is, it was like a DVD, but except it was a box, a black box type thing that went in a VCR. One day I got to do a video of what old things are, because man, do I feel old when my little cousin asked me what I showed him a VHS, and he was like, "What's this?" And I'm like, oh god, now I'm feeling old. Moving on to number 3, Bruce Almighty. Yes, Bruce Almighty. I used to have Liar Liar before this one. For the longest time, Liar Liar was like my number 1. Bruce Almighty was probably my number 2. I have put Bruce Almighty above Liar Liar now, and man, it's not only I think the comedy is more or less the same as Liar Liar's tone and style. And look, I'm a religious guy, but I can remove my beliefs in order for entertainment to make me enjoy something, and I don't take things personal like some other people out there do. I know there's some people that take this movie and do not like it because of what it does. I know how to separate that. So you don't have to worry about me. I'm gonna judge you if you watch it. I'm not that kind of person. I really thought this movie was funny, and really it has a really nice message by the end of it, which I think, some people, even if you are not religious, I think you can really enjoy this for what it is. And if you are, try to look at what the movie is trying to say in a positive way, because I think there is a positive message there for even religious folks to really enjoy. So if you are willing to give it that chance. So with that being said, moving on to number 2, I have Dumb and Dumber. This movie has moved up my list as I grew up. It was always in the top 10 for me as the years started building on more Jim Carrey movies. There were a couple that I left off the list, of course, that I didn't think were worthy to be up here. But Dumb and Dumber is definitely one that has always stayed in the top 10 for me. Because it's hysterical. And yes, it wasn't one that I always had at this high. I always had Liar Liar and Bruce Almighty, maybe even The Mask higher than it. But as I got older and matured, I realized how great this movie actually is. And you know what? You got to give Jeff Daniels some credit for this movie too, because without him, I think it's not Dumb and Dumber, right? It's just dumb. Yeah, it's the two of them combined that really, and their friendship together in this movie, and the road trip that they go on, that really makes this movie enjoyable to watch every time. So Dumb and Dumber, that's a good one. Obviously, you can tell I don't have Dumb and Dumber 2 on this list, right? And, I'm one of the few people that I thought Dumb and Dumber 2 was okay, but not worthy of the top 10. So there you go. Moving on to my number 1 choice. This might be a shocker for some people. Maybe not. Some people can probably see why I have it. The Truman Show. The Truman Show, probably the first movie that Jim Carrey did where he was trying to go in a more dramatic route. I was looking at I've seen a lot of Jim Carrey's dramatic films, and a lot of them to me just didn't stick with me. Some people might be wondering, wait a minute, David, where's Eternal Sunshine in the Spotless Mind, which people say is one of his all-time bests. I'm going to be honest, I've never seen that movie, which is why The Truman Show is at number 1 for me, because The Truman Show was the dramatic film that I think he was terrific in. I thought the story was great. I thought the message was great. I thought, control and all that was like... I really liked the movie and how it was portrayed. Especially someone who was unaware of what was going on. Sometimes we do feel like that. Like, are we in a movie and shit? Like, you look at the news. Sometimes you have to think, man, we're in a movie right now. I know the news sucks right now, and it's not the best thing to watch, but that's how sometimes it feels. Like we're trapped in a bubble, and we're all aching to get out. So, with that being said, look, The Truman Show is a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, go check it out, please. And I know there's going to be people that probably say, David, go check out Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So we'll make a deal. I'll watch Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind if you watch The Truman Show. Unless you've already seen it already, then pick another movie on this list that you've never seen and watch that. And look, Sonic didn't make it because Sonic wasn't worthy. It was an okay movie. I thought it was fine. But not my top 10 favorite Jim Carrey films, so not even close. With that being said, I hope you guys like this video. Please list off your favorite Jim Carrey movies of all time, or top 10 at least, and maybe that will give me some ideas on what to watch. I know Eternal Sunshine is one that a lot of people talk about. I will get to it one day. I'm not going to promise when, but one day I will, before I die, I promise. That I'll promise, okay. Because eventually I'm going to have to watch it. With that being said, until next time, take care.